Thank you for having me on this stage. What a fantastic joy. This is the first time that I've ever been on a TEDx stage, but having heard all the speakers from the morning, I feel like I'm among friends. So thank you for having me over, and I look forward to sharing my perspective on a few topics that I had in mind to discuss with you all. Very interesting topic, and as someone who is very visually tickled, I needed to have an image that kind of caught my attention when we say that what does flipping the narrative actually stand for, right? So whoever made this and posted it on Google, thank you so much. The copyright and credit belongs to them. I own nothing of it. Thank you, but it really excited me on the whole idea of flipping the narrative. So that's something that had stayed with me, right? So coming back to the topic, what I'm going to be discussing with you or sharing with you all is my value proposition on flipping the narrative, which is on something that we measure business in. Businesses are often always measured in tangibles, right? We always look at things that can be measured, be it the balance sheet, the P&L statement, the multiple ratios. The tangibles is what has always governed business, right? What if I were to flip this whole narrative around and say that businesses are not valued nationally or internationally or by their own employees by its tangibles, but actually by its intangibles, things that cannot be measured, right? That is the flip that I am proposing for the topic today, right? Now, what I mean by intangibles, literally, like it says, are things that cannot be measured or are not in conventional measurement parameters, right? These intangibles typically are the culture, the brand, the innovation quotient, and the purpose of an organization, right? How do you measure culture? How do you say one culture is better than the other culture? Or one culture is improving over a period of time? Similarly, how do you say a brand is actually 8 out of 10 and not necessarily 8.5 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, right? It's very difficult to put them on a linear scale, right? And that comes to the real flip that actually hit me in my life, right? When we look for linearity in business, and that has been a constant chase. That's what is taught in business schools. That's what is taught in every single large corporate that we have ever worked with, that businesses exist on linearity. Things will happen into perpetuity over a period of time, right? Now, interestingly, there is nothing in nature which operates on linearity. There are no straight lines in nature. Those of you who have been in nature or walked around and seen, have you ever seen a straight line on anything? On the spine of a leaf, on a petal, on a thing? You never find linearity there. You always find things in a 3-dimensional flow state, right? But, Excel and graphs, it's easier to extend and stretch lines. So linearity extends only in the world of businesses there. And then we fight the rest of our professional lives trying to justify that linearity, right? Going down fighting, right? Gasping for air, right? Under a hail of bullets, but defending our linearity, saying that our business will perpetually grow into that. This gets perpetuated by a complete financial system which kind of balloons and laps this up, right? Saying, so you have things like quarter-on-quarter pressure, you have EPS pressure, you have shareholder pressure. It just is a money-making machine that businesses have become converted to it. Yet, when you look at lasting businesses that have lasted over generations, that lasted multiple generations, that lasted through business cycles, ups and downs, stops and turns and all that, you see organizations that are not necessarily dependent at all on such tangibles or short-term perspectives, right? They are built on something far more deeper, something far more purposeful, right? So the flip is that this will work. No. Okay, we'll fix that. So the flip is that when these entities are trying to work on, so the world of short-termism, the world of tangible is a smoke and mirror game, right? Pretty much like the famous Bruce Lee movie of Enter the Dragon, right? It is not what you see, it is not what you see. You hear quarter pressure, you have analyst numbers, you have quarter reports, you have CEOs going on stage talking about what the future will look like, but it may not necessarily appear the way it appears to be, right? The reality is that businesses that are built much more solidly tend to have deep roots, are rooted very strongly on purpose, on one or two core purpose of its existence, right? And it has the wherewithal to weather whatever storm comes its way, right? It will last over generations. It will last across multiple, turmoils and multiple whatever mess that nature or economy or mankind throws at it. It just has a method of endeavoring and staying relevant over and over and over again. Why am I saying that? Why am I even discussing all this with you? This is not a session on technicalities of valuing business or that. The entire idea is to share my life experiences and things that I have gained after I have had a realization of the nature of perpetuity of businesses, right? And I want to propose my learning for you to consider, to adopt it in your professional careers and in your journey forward in life, right? So let me come back to a bit about myself as to who I am and what I have been doing over the past few years. So let me take back to 1995 when I started off my professional journey from a small MBA campus called XISS in Ranchi. I'm a small town boy from back of beyond place in Raurkela in Orissa. So from there, going to Ranchi, from Ranchi get picked up and through campus selection for GE International, and in a month's time, heady journey starts between Delhi, Bangalore, Hong Kong, China, Singapore, Malaysia, US. 1.5 years, and you have run out of 2 passport books. So intense travel, but I'm not an airline person, so not just the travel. There was also 20 hours of work. It was crazy. No place for more than 3 nights. So it was crazy work, but you really, really enjoyed that. In all this journey, in all these places, across multiple businesses of GE, and working across a wide cross-section, as diverse as it gets, of people, one of the things that you really realized is that what really binds them together? Why are they, each one of them, fire-breathing dragon when it comes to furthering the goals of GE? And that's when it strikes you that, what they are aligning to is that one mission of GE. In those days, it used to be a tagline said, we bring good things to life, right? So 3 things were there. We bring good things to life: speed, simplicity, self-confidence, and then be number 1 or number 2 or get out, right? And this percolated down to every single thing that we did, internal and external, whether customer facing or internal facing, whether customer is internal or the customer is external, right? That kind of gripped me and said that, okay, the power of purpose is phenomenal, right? It is not reflected in a balance sheet. It is not reflected in a P&L statement. And I was a financial auditor also, along with being an HR person, right? So I was saying that this doesn't get okay, accountants have a thing called goodwill accounting. What they can't understand, they call goodwill. Or if they want to please somebody else in an M&A deal, they'll call it goodwill accounting. But this is real, this is real gel, right? I mean, the strength of a team, like I was saying, in sports teams, you see that, right? 11 people who click together, it's like an army, right? They're not just 11, they are like 11 million, right? So exactly like that, purpose is something that, this is something that it clicked with me. And I started picking that up and adopting that and trying and bringing that as I moved on from journeys to journeys. So let me now fast track to the 30 years since 1995 till now. So I've been across multiple companies, multiple sectors. I've been in multiple jobs. I've been an HR manager. I've been a brand manager. I've been corporate communications head. I've been P&L heads. I've run a consulting company as the country head. I've done multiple things in that. And in each of these things, one of the first things that keeps coming your way is go conventional and keep doing things which are tangible. It is much more easier to boards to understand, CFO to understand, or your check to pass, right? Yes, maybe, but I chose not to follow that path and said that, no, let me not be conventional here and let's go the intangible route. So we intentionally chose the intangible route. Let me give some instances. In my consulting, where I was an interim CEO for an agribusiness company, right? We chose the intangible path. We didn't go the conventional route of raising capital and shoring up the balance sheet and then go for listing to raise more money, right? We decided instead to strengthen the roots of the company. So we discovered or rediscovered the purpose of that company from the founders' days about 170 years ago, narrated that purpose, got people enrolled into that purpose conversation. Use that purpose as a guiding pillar and as our lighthouses to change the leadership team's mindset and thought processes. And then together as a unit, when we started facing analysts and bookmakers, that's when they realized that there is an intrinsic value and power in this organization that can really do something. And then we went and listed at BSE, and it was a very, very successful listing, and we raised capital. No capex involved. Okay, we actually had a very nice rap on the knuckles for the conventional analysts who said that follow the normal path of having an asset-led value creation method. So we kind of destroyed that thing, and I was very proud about that thing, right? More recently, I'm currently working with an agribusiness company which is about 50 years old. And my remit at the time of getting on board with them was that I'm not here for the next 3, 4, 5 years and change the story for that. You can find anybody else there. Why would you want to waste your and my time and your money doing that, right? Let me write an architecture for the next 50 years for you, right? And if that makes sense, what's the worst that can happen? I may miss it, right? But I'll tell you, even if we were half correct, it will still be a much better place than we would be if we were to join it, right? So the good thing about walking the path of intangibles or walking the path of being a purpose-led company than a profit-led company alone is that you are able to see much ahead of time, right? And build things in order for everything to stack up at that point in time, right? And again, I didn't borrow this from, or I didn't kind of come up with this idea. There's no IP here. It's not proprietary to me or anything of that nature. This exists in nature all around us, right? I don't know why we refuse to see it, but if you were to look at nature all around us, this is exactly what you see, right? A giant banyan tree is not just defined by the branches that it has, right? And the spread or the vistar with which it kind of, takes over a piece of land, right? It's actually measured by the depth and the breadth of the roots that it has there, right? The stronger it's embedded in purpose, the stronger it's embedded in its culture, the bigger and better the tree comes out in life, right? So like the giant banyan tree, the submission, from my life journey and professional journey is that for us to consider a completely different narrative when we are looking at a business, from moving away from the tangibles alone as a metric. It's important, there's no dispute on that, but by moving away from having only the tangibles as a measure to also looking at the intangibles, which is the brand, the culture, the innovation potential of an organization, right? And as leaders, my submission to you is that adopt this into your teams. Try and see and measure and value the intangible that you have in your teams, right? As professionals, look for what is it that you can offer as an intangible to a client, a customer, a coworker, and then say, what value can I add, which is an intangible there? Make a conscious effort in the first few times, and slowly it will start becoming a second nature for you to add that extra magic powder all over your offerings. And that's what really clicks, right? And again, not hyperbolic. Talk to yourself. Transformations in our own personal journeys have always been when we have had this powerful conversation with ourselves, tapping into our intangible strengths, right? It's not been our physicality, it's not been our muscles, it's not how flat our abs are, or what, how many inches of biceps I have, right? It is something far more deep, right? In the breath that I take and the purpose with which I can inhale, hold, and exhale my breath that defines who I as a human I really am, right? So we know it, we intrinsically know it, we don't do it, right? My submission is please consciously adopt it and then try and take it to it, right? Because as a country, as a nation, we are poised at a very, very interesting time to take this and make our nation leapfrog into another completely different realm of nations, right? And when a nation grows, by default, we grow in the tailwind, right? Where we are poised today, it is the intangibles that will really make it happen, right? The linear productivity of our society has achieved what it can do. Now every achievement has to be in non-linearity, right? Small, small incremental steps that we take by doing unconventional things, by involving unconventional peoples. And as a society, we are going out and helping people achieve their true potential, and not in exploiting them, right? But in actually helping them get their potential. We have examples all around us, including one from this land that we are standing on, right? Sridhar Vembu, everybody's name I've taken. Not a sponsored quote, so nevertheless. But someone who has such solid purpose-led vision for himself and his organization that today, nobody feels ashamed to call it a national mission, right? That's the power of purpose there, right? With that submission, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me over, and invite you to consider intangibles as a measure of life. Thank you so much.